Captain Lee Hyun walked slowly across the bridge of his ship, the Seoul Pride. The massive starship moved through the dark space near the edge of human territory. It was the year 2387, and humanity had been traveling among the stars for almost 200 years now. Lee Hyun was one of the best captains in Earth Fleet, and his crew trusted him completely. The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of computers and the gentle beeping of navigation systems. Officer Park Mina sat at the communications desk, checking for any messages from other human ships in the area. Lieutenant Kim Tae monitored the weapon systems even though they were supposed to be in peaceful space. Commander Yoon Hai watched the main screen that showed the stars ahead of them. Everything seemed normal until Park Mina suddenly sat up straight in her chair. Her eyes went wide, and she turned to look at Captain Lee. Something was wrong. She pressed some buttons on her console and listened carefully to her headphones. "Captain," the girl said in a worried voice, "we are getting a message from ships that we cannot see on our scanners yet. They are telling us to stop our ship right now. They sound very angry and they are not speaking like humans do." Lee Hyun felt his stomach tighten. First contact with aliens was something every human captain feared and hoped for at the same time. Earth had been looking for other intelligent life for centuries, but they had never found any proof that aliens existed. Now it seemed like the aliens had found humanity first. "Tell them we are peaceful explorers from Earth," Lee said calmly. "Ask them who they are and what they want from us." Park Mina sent the message, but the response came back even angrier than before. Then something appeared on their main viewing screen that made everyone on the bridge gasp in surprise. 3 enormous ships materialized out of nowhere. They were bigger than any human ship ever built, and they looked like giant metal spiders, with hundreds of glowing red lights covering their dark hulls. The largest alien ship sent another message, and this time a face appeared on their screen. The alien looked nothing like a human. It had gray skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its head was twice as wide as a human head, and it had 4 eyes that glowed with a cold yellow light. When it opened its mouth to speak, Lee could see rows of sharp metal teeth. "I am Vex Prime," the alien said in broken human language that sounded like it was learning the words for the first time. "You have entered the sacred space of the Galactic Council without asking for permission first. This is a crime that cannot be forgiven. Surrender your ship to us now, or we will destroy you completely." Lee looked around at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. He had trained for this moment his whole life, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of meeting hostile aliens. The alien ships were massive, and there were 3 of them against his 1 ship. But Lee was not the kind of man who gave up easily. "We are peaceful explorers," Lee replied to the alien. "We did not know this space belonged to anyone. We will leave, if you wish, but we will not surrender our ship to you." The alien leader made a horrible sound that might have been laughter. "Peaceful explorers," it repeated mockingly. "That is what they all say before we crush them into dust. You humans are just another weak species that needs to learn who rules this galaxy. The Galactic Council has destroyed over 1,000 worlds. Your little planet will be next if you do not obey us." Lieutenant Kim Tae was running scans on the alien ships while the conversation continued. He looked surprised by what his computers were telling him. "Captain," he whispered so the aliens could not hear him, "their ships are very large, but they are using old technology. Very old. Their weapons are probably 50 years behind ours, and their shields are even weaker than that." Lee felt a surge of hope. Humanity had spent 2 centuries perfecting their space technology. They had learned from every war in human history and built their ships to be fast, deadly, and nearly indestructible. If these aliens were using old technology, then maybe Earth had a chance after all. The alien commander was growing impatient. "You have 10 seconds to surrender, human, or we will show you the price of defying the Galactic Council." 10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2. Lee made his decision. "All crew prepare for battle. Kim Tae, bring our weapons online. Park Mina, send an emergency message to Earth Fleet Command. Tell them we have made contact with hostile aliens and that we need backup immediately." The alien ships opened fire first. Bright green energy beams shot out from dozens of weapons ports and struck the Seoul Pride. The human crew braced for impact, expecting their ship to be torn apart by alien superweapons. But instead there was just a gentle shaking as their shields absorbed the attack completely. Lee stared at his tactical display in amazement. The alien weapons had barely scratched their defenses. It was like being attacked by children with toy guns. Now it was time to show these aliens what human weapons could do. Kim Tae, fire one warning shot at their lead ship, Lee ordered. Target their weapon systems, but do not destroy them completely. Let them see what our technology can do. The Soul Pride's main plasma cannon charged up with a deep humming sound that the crew could feel in their bones. Then it fired a single bright blue beam that lasted only 2 seconds. The beam struck the alien flagship and punched completely through its armor like it was made of paper instead of metal. Explosions rippled across the alien ship's hull, and half of its weapons went dark. The 3 alien ships suddenly stopped attacking. Lee could see on his screen that the alien commander looked shocked and afraid. The other 2 alien ships began to back away from the Soul Pride as if they had just realized they were fighting something far more dangerous than they had expected. "This is impossible," Vex Prime said in a shaking voice. "Your weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields. What kind of technology do you humans possess? The kind that comes from never giving up." Lee replied calmly. "You said the Galactic Council has destroyed 1,000 worlds. Well, let me tell you something about humans. We have been fighting wars for thousands of years, and we have learned how to do it very well. If you want a war with Earth, you will get one. But I do not think you will like how it ends." The alien ships fled without saying another word. They disappeared as quickly as they had appeared, leaving the Soul Pride alone in space. Lee knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would be back, and probably with many more ships. But now he also knew something important. Humanity was not helpless against these galactic bullies. Earth was about to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened the human homeworld. The news of the defeat reached the Galactic Council capital world in less than 3 days. The massive planet called Dominion Prime was covered in huge cities that stretched from one horizon to the other. At the center of the largest city stood the council chamber, a building so enormous that it could be seen from space. Inside this building, the most powerful beings in the galaxy made decisions that affected billions of lives. Council leader Thox sat on his throne at the center of the great chamber. He was tall even by the standards of his species, with gray skin that looked like old leather, and forearms that ended in clawed hands. His yellow eyes burned with anger as he listened to the report from Admiral Crix, who commanded all the council military forces. "The human ship destroyed 3 of our best vessels without taking any damage," Admiral Crix reported. He looked like a giant lizard that had been covered in metal armor and computer implants. His voice was deep and rough, like grinding stone. "Their weapons are far more advanced than anything we have seen before. Perhaps we should try to make peace with these humans before." Thox slammed one of his clawed fists down on the arm of his throne, making a sound like thunder. "Silence," he roared. "The Galactic Council does not make peace with inferior species. We have ruled this galaxy for over 2,000 years. No primitive world has ever challenged our power and survived." Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of alien species nodded their heads in agreement. They were all afraid of Thox, and none of them wanted to be seen as weak or cowardly. The Council had built its empire on fear and violence, and showing any mercy was considered a sign of weakness. "But my Lord Admiral Crix continued carefully, perhaps we should learn more about human technology before we attack their homeworld. If one of their ships can defeat 3 of ours, then..." Thox stood up from his throne and walked down the steps toward Admiral Crix. The other council members moved away from him because they knew how dangerous he could be when angry. Thox grabbed Admiral Crix by the throat with 2 of his hands and lifted the heavy lizard alien off the ground. "Are you suggesting that these pathetic humans are stronger than the Galactic Council?" Thox hissed. "Are you saying that our mighty fleet cannot crush one small world full of weak creatures who have barely learned to travel between stars?" Admiral Crix struggled to breathe, but managed to shake his head. "No, my lord," he gasped. "I serve the Council with my life. I will destroy the humans as you command." Thox dropped Admiral Crix back to the floor and returned to his throne. "Good," he said with satisfaction. "Send 500 ships to their homeworld. I want every human city burned to ash. I want their planet to serve as an example to any other species that might think about defying us." Meanwhile, back on Earth, the news of first contact had reached every government and military leader on the planet. In the city of Seoul, inside a building that housed Earth Fleet Command, Admiral Choi Soo was meeting with the most important people on Earth. President Lee Da sat at the head of a long table with military officers, scientists, and diplomats around her. The alien ship that Captain Lee encountered was using fusion-based weapons, Dr. Namji explained. She was Earth's leading expert on space technology and had spent her whole career preparing for this moment. Our quantum plasma systems are at least 50 years ahead of anything they showed us. Their shields were even weaker than their weapons. Admiral Choi Soo nodded his head slowly. He was an old man who had fought in the Mars colony wars and the asteroid mining conflicts. He understood war better than almost anyone on Earth. So we have a technological advantage, he said. But what about numbers? How many ships can they bring against us? We do not know yet, President Lee replied. But we have to assume they will come with everything they have. No galactic empire will let a defeat like this go unanswered. They will want to make an example of us. Dr. Namji pulled up a holographic display that showed Earth's current military strength. We have been building ships for the past 50 years in case we ever encountered hostile aliens, she said. Right now we have over 300 ships of various sizes. 12 are Dreadnought-class battleships, the most powerful warships ever built by human hands. The room fell quiet, as everyone considered what this meant. Earth had always known that first contact might be hostile, and they had prepared accordingly. But no one had expected to face an entire galactic empire so soon after leaving their own solar system. What about our allies? Admiral Choi asked. The Mars colonies, the asteroid mining stations, the research outposts, all of them are ready to fight, President Lee replied. Every human settlement has agreed to contribute ships and personnel. We also have the advantage of fighting close to our own territory. The aliens will be far from their supply lines. Admiral Choi stood up and walked to a window that showed the Earth spinning slowly below them. The blue and white planet looked so peaceful from space, but he knew that within weeks it might be surrounded by alien warships trying to destroy everything humanity had built. There is something else we need to consider, he said, turning back to the group. This Galactic Council has apparently conquered hundreds of worlds. That means there are probably many alien species who hate them and would be willing to help us fight. Dr. Namji nodded excitedly. Yes, she said. If we can make contact with other species who have been conquered by the Council, we might be able to turn this into a rebellion instead of just a war between Earth and the Council. President Lee smiled for the first time since the meeting began. That is exactly what we are going to do, she said. We will show the galaxy that the age of the Galactic Council is over. But first, we need to survive their attack. Over the next few weeks, Earth's shipyards worked around the clock building new weapons and upgrading existing ships. The 12 orbital construction facilities around Earth had never been busier. Thousands of workers, humans, and robots worked together to prepare for the coming war. Captain Oh-sung supervised the construction of new fighter squadrons at the Luna Base shipyard. The small, fast ships were designed to swarm larger vessels and strike at weak points. Each fighter was equipped with plasma cannons that could punch holes through heavy armor. Commander Jong Hwa trained new pilots in the asteroid fields of the outer solar system. The young men and women who volunteered to fly the fighters knew they would be facing odds of hundreds to one, but none of them hesitated. They had grown up hearing stories about the wars their grandparents had fought, and they were ready to add their own chapter to human history. On the surface of Earth, factories that normally made civilian goods switched to producing military supplies. Weapons, ammunition, medical supplies, and food rations poured out of every industrial center on the planet. The entire human species was preparing for the fight of their lives. But Earth had advantages that the Galactic Council did not understand. Humans had been fighting wars for their entire history, and they had learned valuable lessons from every conflict. They knew how to work together under pressure, how to make quick decisions, and how to never give up even when facing impossible odds. The aliens were about to learn why you should never threaten humanity's homeworld. Commander Oh-sung stood in the main hangar bay of the Busan Thunder, one of Earth's newest and most powerful dreadnought battleships. The massive ship was over 2 kilometers long and packed with enough weapons to level a small moon. Around him, hundreds of fighter pilots ran through their final equipment checks before the coming battle. The hangar was filled with the sound of engines warming up and pilots calling out to each other as they prepared their small but deadly spacecraft. Each pilot wore the black and silver uniform of Earth's Stellar Navy, with the blue and white symbol of Earth sewn onto their shoulders. These men and women had trained their whole lives for this moment. "Listen up, everyone, Commander," O called out in a voice that carried across the entire hangar. "The alien fleet will be here in less than 2 days. They think we are just another weak species that will run away when they show up with their big ships. They think we will beg for mercy when we see how many of them there are." He paused and looked around at all the young faces staring back at him. These pilots were barely out of training, but they had the same determination in their eyes that he had seen in veterans of a dozen conflicts. "But they do not know about human history," he continued. "They do not know that we have been fighting wars since before we could even leave our own planet. They do not know that when someone threatens our home, we do not run away. We fight back with everything we have." The pilots cheered and raised their fists in the air. Commander O smiled and felt proud of these young warriors. In a few hours they would be flying into battle against impossible odds, but none of them looked scared. They looked ready. In the ship's main command center, Captain Yoon Hai studied the holographic displays that showed the approaching alien fleet. The computers had detected over 500 enemy ships moving toward Earth's solar system in a formation that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. "Their formation is terrible," Lieutenant Bei Wan observed from his position at the tactical station. He was young but very smart, and had graduated at the top of his class from the Naval Academy. "They are flying like they expect us to just sit here and wait for them to destroy us." Captain Yoon smiled coldly as she watched the enemy fleet's slow approach. She had studied military history since she was a child, and she knew that overconfident enemies often made the worst mistakes. "They have obviously never fought anyone who could fight back," she said. "Look at how spread out they are. No coordination between ship groups, no scouts protecting their flanks. They are flying like they are in a parade, not a battle." The alien fleet was impressive in size, but their tactics were those of bullies who had never faced real opposition. For over 2,000 years, the Galactic Council had crushed primitive civilizations that barely had space travel. They had never fought an enemy that understood modern warfare. Earth's response was very different. 200 human warships had taken positions throughout the solar system, using asteroids, moons, and space stations as cover. Each ship knew exactly where every other ship was positioned, and they were all connected by quantum communication systems that allowed instant coordination. The human fleet included 12 massive dreadnoughts like the Busan Thunder 50 heavy cruisers designed for long-range combat, and over 100 destroyers and frigates built for speed and maneuverability. Every ship had been designed by people who understood that in space combat, the fastest and smartest usually won. Admiral Park Jin commanded the entire fleet from his flagship, the Incheon Revenge. He was an old man who had fought in more space battles than anyone else alive. His gray hair and lined face showed his age, but his eyes were still sharp and focused. He had been waiting his whole career for a chance to command a fleet this large in a battle this important. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," he broadcast on the fleet-wide communication channel. "In a few hours, we will face the largest alien fleet in galactic history. They outnumber us more than 2 to 1, and their ships are bigger than ours. Some of you might be wondering if we can win this fight." He paused for a moment and looked around the bridge at his officers. They were all listening carefully to every word he said. "Let me tell you something about those aliens," he continued. "They have spent 2,000 years beating up on species that could not fight back. They have never faced an enemy with weapons as advanced as ours. They have never fought people who treat war as both an art and a science the way humans do. Today, we are going to teach them why you never threaten Earth." Throughout the fleet, human crews made their final preparations. Engineers checked every system twice. Gunners loaded the most powerful weapons ever created by human science. Medical teams prepared to treat wounded. Everyone knew their job and everyone was ready to do it. Captain Song Min commanded a squadron of destroyers positioned near Jupiter. His ships were small and fast, designed to hit hard and disappear before the enemy could respond. He had handpicked his crews from the best officers in the fleet. Remember the plan he told his captains over. A secure channel. We hit their left flank fast and hard. Target their engine sections first. If they cannot maneuver, they cannot fight effectively. Then we disappear behind the asteroid belt and hit them again from a different angle. Commander Zheng Hua led the fighter squadrons from the carrier ship Seoul's Dawn. Her pilots had trained in the asteroid fields and knew how to use speed and small size to their advantage. Each fighter carried plasma missiles that could cripple ships 100 times their size. "Fighter command to all pilots," she announced over the radio. "When the battle starts, we go after their command ships. Cut off. The head and the body will follow. Stay close to the asteroids and use them for cover. These aliens have never seen fighter tactics like ours." Dr. Namji worked frantically in Earth's main research facility trying to learn everything possible about alien technology from the data collected during the first encounter. Her computers analyzed every detail of the alien ships looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. "Their power systems are incredibly inefficient," she reported to Admiral Park. "Their ships are big, but most of that size is wasted space. They also appear to use centralized command systems. If we can disrupt their communications, their fleet will lose coordination very quickly." As the alien fleet drew closer, Earth's defenders could see them clearly on their sensors. The enemy ships looked impressive and frightening, but the humans, who watched them approach, were not afraid. They were angry. These aliens had threatened humanity's homeworld, and now they were going to pay for that mistake. The Battle of Seoul was about to begin, and it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For the first time in 2,000 years, the Galactic Council was going to face an enemy that was ready for them. The space around Earth's sun became a battlefield like nothing the galaxy had ever witnessed before. Admiral Crix commanded the alien fleet from his enormous command ship, the Eternal Dominion. The massive vessel was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities. He had never lost a battle in his long military career, and he was confident that today would be another easy victory. "All ships advance in formation," Crix ordered through the fleet communication system. "Destroy everything that moves. Show these humans what happens when primitive species defy the Galactic Council." The alien fleet moved forward in their traditional attack formation. 500 ships arranged in neat rows like soldiers marching in a parade. It was the same formation they had used to conquer 1,000 worlds, and it had never failed them before. But they had never fought humans before. As the alien ships entered the inner solar system, they expected to find a small group of human vessels clustered around their homeworld, desperately trying to defend it. Instead, they found something that confused and worried them. The human ships were spread out across the entire solar system, and they were not staying still. Admiral Park Jin watched the alien fleet approach from his position on the bridge of the Incheon Revenge. His tactical officers were feeding him information about enemy positions, ship types, and weapon systems. Everything was going exactly according to plan. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," he broadcast to the human fleet. "Execute Battle Plan Alpha immediately. Show them what human tactics look like." Instead of meeting the aliens head-on in a traditional space battle, the human ships did something completely unexpected. The Earth fleet split apart into dozens of small groups and began attacking from multiple directions at the same time. Captain Song Min led his squadron of destroyers in the first strike against the alien left flank. His 6 ships moved like a pack of wolves, darting out from behind the cover of asteroids to hit the enemy where they were weakest. "All ships target their engine sections," Song ordered his captains. "These big ships cannot maneuver very well, even when their engines are working properly. Let us see how they fight when they cannot move at all." The human destroyers unleashed a coordinated barrage of plasma cannon fire that lit up space with brilliant blue and white energy beams. The alien ships tried to return fire, but the human vessels were too fast and too agile. By the time the aliens could target them, the destroyers had already moved to new positions. The plasma cannons tore through alien armor like it was made of paper instead of metal. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries suddenly found their engines crippled and their weapons systems failing. The aliens had never faced weapons this powerful before. Meanwhile, Commander Zhonghua led her fighter squadron in a daring attack directly at the heart of the alien fleet. 200 small human fighters raced through space toward Admiral Crix's command ship, The alien defenders tried to shoot them down, but the fighters were too small and fast for their targeting systems. "This is Falcon Leader Zhang," announced over the radio to her pilots, "beginning our attack run on their flagship. Stay close together and watch out for each other. Let us show these aliens what human pilots can do." The fighters dove through the alien fleet like angry wasps, dodging between the massive enemy ships and striking at critical systems. Their plasma missiles exploded against alien hulls, sending shockwaves through ships that had seemed indestructible just moments before. Admiral Crix watched in growing horror as his supposedly invincible fleet was torn apart by these small, fast human ships. The tactical display on his bridge showed red warning lights appearing all across his fleet, as ship after ship reported damage to critical systems. "How are their weapons so powerful?" Crix demanded of his science officer. "Our intelligence reports said these humans were a primitive species that had barely learned space travel." So the science officer replied nervously, "Our intelligence was wrong. Their technology appears to be far more advanced than ours. Their plasma weapons are cutting through our armor like it does not exist." The human attack came from every direction at once, while Captain Song's destroyers hammered the alien left flank, and Commander Zhang's fighters struck at the center. Admiral Park's heavy cruisers opened fire on the enemy right wing with weapons that could crack moons in half. Captain Lee Hyun now, commanding the upgraded Seoul Pride, led a group of battleships in a frontal assault that drew the aliens' attention away from the smaller human ships. His dreadnought's main guns fired massive plasma bolts that completely destroyed alien cruisers with single shots. The aliens tried to respond with their traditional tactics of overwhelming firepower, but they quickly discovered that their weapons were almost useless against human shields. Energy beams that could level cities barely registered on the defensive systems of human warships. Lieutenant Bae Wan monitored the battle from his position aboard the Busan Thunder and could hardly believe what he was seeing. The alien fleet outnumbered the humans by more than 2-1, but they were losing badly. "Captain, their return fire is so weak, our shields are not even dropping below 90%. He reported to Captain Yoon Hai. "It is like they are shooting at us with toys instead of real weapons." Captain Yoon smiled grimly as she watched another alien ship explode on the main viewing screen. These aliens had grown soft and lazy after centuries of easy victories against weaker opponents. They had forgotten that real warfare required skill, strategy, and superior technology. The battle lasted for 3 hours, but the outcome was decided within the first 30 minutes. Human ships moved through the alien fleet like sharks among minnows, cutting down enemies that could not fight back effectively. The aliens' size advantage meant nothing when they could not hit their targets or penetrate human defenses. By the end of the second hour, over half the alien fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The surviving ships were scattered across the solar system, many of them broadcasting desperate surrender messages or calling for help that would never come. Admiral Crix himself barely escaped when his flagship was crippled by a coordinated attack from Captain Song's destroyers and Commander Zhang's fighters. The Eternal Dominion limped away from the battle with most of its weapons destroyed and its engines failing. "We must retreat." Crix ordered his surviving captains. "Send word to the Council immediately. Tell them that the humans have weapons and tactics we have never encountered before. We need a much larger fleet to defeat them." But even as the alien survivors fled, they could not believe what had just happened. The mighty Galactic Council fleet had been completely defeated by a smaller force of ships, from a species they had thought was primitive and weak. Not a single human ship was destroyed during the entire battle. A few had taken minor damage that would be repaired within days. The Battle of Seoul was the most one-sided military victory in galactic history, and word of it would spread across the stars faster than light. Admiral Park stood on his bridge and looked out at the wreckage of the alien fleet floating in space around them. His crews were already working to rescue alien survivors and capture enemy ships for study. The humans had fought with honor even against enemies who had threatened to destroy their homeworld. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," he broadcast to his victorious fleet. "You have just won the greatest naval battle in human history. But remember that this is only the beginning. The aliens will be back, and next time they will bring everything they have. We must be ready for them." The victory celebration would have to wait. Earth had sent a message to the galaxy that humanity would not be conquered easily, but now the real war was about to begin. News of the Galactic Council's crushing defeat at the Battle of Sol traveled through space faster than their surviving ships could carry it. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, alien species who had lived under Council rule for generations began to hear whispers of something impossible. The humans had won. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, a species called the Noxians had been slaves to the Council for over 300 years. Their home planet had been conquered when they were still learning to build simple spacecraft, and ever since then they had been forced to dig precious metals from the deep caves of their world to feed the Council's endless hunger for wealth. Forth was the eldest of the Noxian workers, and he remembered stories his grandfather had told him about the time before the Council came. Stories of when his people had been free to make their own choices and live their own lives. He had almost stopped believing those stories were real until today. Brothers and sisters, Vorth called quietly to a group of Noxians gathered in the deepest tunnels of their mine where the Council guards could not hear them. I have received word from the traders who come to buy our metals. The humans of Earth have defeated a Council war fleet. 500 ships destroyed by only 200 human vessels. The gathered Noxians looked at each other with expressions of wonder and disbelief. For 3 centuries, the Council had seemed unbeatable. Their ships filled the sky and their weapons could crack planets in half. How could any species stand against them and win? Are you certain of this? Forth asked Yila, a young female who had never known anything but slavery. The Council has always told us that no one can defeat them. They said any species that tries to rebel will be wiped out completely. Forth nodded his head slowly. The traders do not lie about such things, he said. They are too afraid of the Council to spread false stories. But this time they brought proof. Recordings of the battle taken by Council ships that escaped. The human weapons are like nothing anyone has ever seen before. Similar secret meetings were happening on dozens of worlds throughout Council territory. Species that had been conquered, enslaved, or forced to pay heavy taxes to the Council began to organize and plan. The humans had shown them something they had not felt in centuries: hope. On the ocean world of Aquarius Prime, the Helian Collective had been forced to give half of their planet's water production to the Council every year. Their leader, Coral Singer, had been planning a rebellion for decades but had never found the courage to act. Now everything had changed. The humans proved that the Council can be beaten, she told her war council, in the depths of their underwater city. If these strangers from across the galaxy can destroy 500 Council ships, then we can certainly drive their tax collectors from our world. The fish-like aliens around the table nodded their agreement. They had weapons hidden in secret locations across their planet, and now they finally had a reason to use them. The Council would soon learn that their empire was not as secure as they had thought. Back on Earth, President Lee was meeting with her military advisors and intelligence officers in the secure bunker beneath Sol. The victory at Sol had been complete, but everyone knew this was only the first battle in what would likely be a long war. Our spy satellites have detected massive fleet movements throughout Council space, General Kim Soo reported. They are pulling ships from garrison duties all across their empire. It looks like they are preparing for a much larger attack on Earth. President Lee nodded thoughtfully. She had expected this. The Council could not afford to let their defeat go unanswered, or every species in their empire would start to rebel. How long do we have before they can organize another attack, she asked. At least 6 months, Dr. Namji replied from her position at the science table. Maybe more if we are lucky. Their ships are slow compared to ours, and they will need time to coordinate such a large fleet. But when they do come back, they will bring everything they have. President Lee stood up and walked to a large map that showed human-controlled space. Earth and its colonies were just tiny dots compared to the vast empire that the Council controlled. But she was not worried about the size difference. Then we use that time to find allies, she announced. The Council has made enemies of every species they have ever conquered. If we can unite them against our common enemy, we can turn this from a war of conquest into a war of liberation. Within days, Earth began sending out diplomatic missions to every corner of Council space. Captain Park Mina commanded one of the new stealth ships that could travel undetected through alien territory. Her mission was to make contact with rebel groups and offer them something the Council never had: a partnership between equals. First species she contacted were the Zephyrians, who lived on floating cities in the atmosphere of a gas giant. They had been paying tribute to the Council for over 400 years, and their leader, Wind Dancer, was eager to hear what the humans had to offer. "We do not want to rule you," Captain Park explained during their secret meeting. "We want to fight alongside you as allies. When we defeat the Council, you will be free to govern your own world as you see fit. All we ask is that you help us in this war." Wind Dancer was amazed by this offer. The Council had always demanded complete obedience from the species they conquered. The idea of a partnership between different species was something entirely new. "What do you need from us?" the alien leader asked. "Ships, crews, and knowledge of Council territory," Captain Park replied. "You know their trade routes, their military bases, and their weaknesses better than we do. Together we can plan attacks that will cripple their ability to wage war." Similar conversations were taking place across the galaxy as human diplomats made contact with dozens of rebel groups. Each species brought their own unique abilities to the growing alliance. The crystalline beings from Praxis could jam Council communications. The energy creatures from the void systems could pass through solid matter to sabotage enemy ships from within. Commander Oh-Sung was assigned to help train alien crews to use human weapons and tactics. He found that many of these species were natural fighters who had been held back only by inferior technology and fear of Council retaliation. "You fought bravely against the Council for centuries," he told a group of Noxian rebels who had captured several Council ships and wanted to learn how to use them effectively. "Now we will teach you how to fight smart as well. Human tactics combined with your courage will make you Ian Sti." 1 year after the Battle of Sol, the Galactic Council's empire was crumbling. Human-led alliance fleets were liberating worlds across the galaxy, and more species joined the rebellion every week. The Council's iron grip on power was slipping through their fingers like sand. Admiral Choi Su stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, now flagship of the human Xenon Liberation Fleet. Beside him, alien allies from a dozen different species worked together to coordinate the final assault on the Council's capital world. "Admiral," reported Commander Yaksik, a crystal-based alien whose species had joined the alliance early. "All fleet groups are in position. We have over 2,000 ships ready for the final battle." It was an incredible sight. Human vessels flew alongside ships from the Noxians, the Helion Collective, the free worlds of Andromeda, and many other species. Each had brought their own unique technologies and fighting styles to create the most diverse military force in galactic history. The Council's capital was defended by their remaining fleet of over 3,000 ships, plus massive orbital defense platforms. But their forces were demoralized and fractured. Many Council species were secretly negotiating to switch sides rather than face the humans in battle. When the final battle began, it was less a war than a collapse. Council ships surrendered by the hundreds, rather than face the Alliance's advanced weapons. The orbital defenses were overwhelmed within hours by coordinated attacks from human, Noxian, and Helion forces working together. Council leader Thox was captured trying to escape in a small transport ship. When he was brought before Admiral Choi, the proud alien leader who had once ruled a third of the galaxy looked broken and defeated. "You have destroyed everything we built," Thox said bitterly. "Thousands of years of galactic order, gone because of your species' arrogance." Admiral Choi looked at him with calm eyes. "We didn't destroy order. We destroyed tyranny. There's a difference." 3 months later, representatives from over 100 species gathered on Earth for the signing of the new Galactic Compact. It established the principle that no species had the right to rule over others by force, and created a federation based on cooperation rather than conquest. Captain Lee Hyun, whose first encounter with the Council had started this entire war, was given the honor of reading the document's opening words. "We, the free species of this galaxy, declare that the age of empire is over. In its place, we build an age of partnership, where the strength of one becomes the strength of all, and where no being shall bow to another unless they choose to do so freely." The Galactic Council had thought they were ready for anything the universe could throw at them. They were wrong. They were not ready for the might of Earth's fleet, but more importantly, they were not ready for humanity's greatest weapon, The idea that freedom is worth fighting for, no matter the odds. Earth had not just won a war, they had changed the galaxy forever.